do you think the reasoning is, as somebody who was, I mean, you're in the building, advisor, consultant, you wrote a book, Football Done Right, literally about that whole thing. Why do you think it doesn't work with the coaches that have coached under Bill Belichick and other places?
Well, I think a lot of it, each one is different circumstances, but let's just take, the Josh one as he goes to the Raiders, right? So, look, I've said this numerous times on my podcast. I've said it everywhere. Every time around the draft, I say this. Bill Walsh used to say all the time, the last position you fix on your team is the wide receiver. When we were getting ready to trade up for Jerry Rice, we had the 28th pick of the draft. We traded to 19. He wanted to trade up because he felt the team was perfect around him. And he said to me, now is the time to get a blue chip receiver. Now, because we're good. He said, when you're not good, you can't, because it creates conflict. Can't get the ball to him, can't protect. And I think when the Raiders went there, when Josh went there in terms of team building, that move, the first move he made, was great, and it won a lot of fanfare. But the reality is, if you can't protect and you can't rush the passer, it ends up not working out, and you get a disgruntled player like Devontae who's saying, hey, how come I'm not getting the football? I think a lot of this has to go back to team building. And one of the things I don't think Bill gets enough credit for is his ability to build a team, his ability to understand how to build a team. You can criticize, well, they didn't have this draft pick or they missed all that. Bill's has a unique ability to understand how to build a team. And I think for all the conversations about we need more receivers, we need more receivers, we need more receivers, right? We got to dress more receivers. At the end of the day, the teams that get to the final team, the verdict. And this is Al Davis's belief too, right? Because I worked for him, size, speed. We're going to win the offense and defensive lines. And I think teams that, I think when you look at that board, the thing that jumps out, they didn't have quarterbacks, but mostly they didn't reinforce their offensive lines. And that is what gets most of. That's what got the problems in New York, in Las Vegas. I mean, their offensive line, Colton Miller, and then they've got a bunch of guys. Defensive line, Max is tremendous, but they don't have enough to really control the game. And then it puts so much pressure. And you're right. Look, if you don't win, if you lose a 20-point lead at home against Arizona, if you lose to Jeff Saturday, a new coach, if you lose to, Baker Mayfield, who just shows up, and then you lose in Chicago to a rookie quarterback from Shepherd, you're going to lose the confidence of the team. That's just the reality of the business we've chosen, right? And for my son, he'll grow from this. It's a great learning experience. He had a great opportunity with Josh. We're forever thankful for that. But like Chuck knows, we all learn from this. The greatest lessons we can learn are from our mistakes. And nobody's shooting a Hollywood movie here now. Like, there's no perfect endings in the NFL. Because even when you win the Super Bowl, you guys just got to get up the next day and try to win it again. And it's hard. So it's about understanding that.
I think what you just said about your son there was very cool to hear. By the way, as you started speaking about it, I felt like a sense of real joy inside because you were doing a little dadding there while you're also informing all of us about it. And I think Nick Saban, who'll be joining us in 30 minutes, one of his first quotes he said on here is, we can never waste a failure. You can never waste a failure. And that's like, nope. You learn from it, you move on, you grow from it, and I assume Mick will definitely do that. You bring up a very valid point, though. Feels like all these teams that do stink based around the offensive line. So then if the offensive line doesn't work, well, then the offense can't work. And if your offense can't work, we're not going to be able to score, and you're going to lose games. That's just how it all goes. It's very fundamental thinking, and I appreciate that. Can we now talk about the personal standpoint of it, of like the Patriot way, going in there? And you said if you lose the confidence of the team, they're obviously going to be out. Do you think there is something to that, though, about the Patriot way maybe just being impossible to implement other places? Maybe because they don't have Tom Brady. I mean, that could be a good conversation starter.
Yeah.
But also, the reason why the Patriot way works, right, is because Bill has an ability to identify the players that would be right to work in the Patriot way and how they kind of operate. Maybe take a little bit less money, not as much high profile, buy in, have to know 3 different positions, have to be able to do everything, have to have a different game plan in the second half than in the first half. So whenever you're trying to implement this with the wrong people, it's almost like a square thing trying to get shoved into a circle. Is that a reason that doesn't get really talked about much with the whole Patriot way not working anywhere else?
Well, I think the Patriot way is really about the head coach being able to make really good decisions. And I think if you look at all those instances that you put up there, you could probably see there were a lot of bad decisions. We sign this player, sign that player, don't sign this player, don't sign that. I think at the end of the day, Bill is a really good decision maker. And look, you're always, to me, the mistake that makes in Las Vegas is the expectations, right? Chuck and I were there. There's always these expectations for the Raiders to win. They've had 2 winning seasons in 21 years, right? They've had 2 positive point differentials in 21 years. Like, people walk around like the Raiders have been this incredible franchise. We have struggled since we went to the Super Bowl in 02. They've had 2 playoff years, and that's the only and the 1 playoff year they lost the wild card, they were negative. So you got to get sense of, here's what we got to do to fix the team, and you got to make really good decisions. And I think that's where Bill has such an advantage, because every team, Pat, has 3 circumstances to it, right? You got a team competing for the Super Bowl, San Francisco, Philadelphia, that. They make decisions differently than the team trying to get respectability. And until you can figure out what bracket you're in terms of decision making, it makes it very challenging. Chicago trades a high second-round pick for Montez Sweat without a contract. They're a team trying to get respectable, but they're making decisions as if they're trying to get to the Super Bowl. Those things don't stay in harmony.
Chuck, what if this guy's the guy? What if this guy is the guy?
Oh, yeah.
He's getting an incredible opportunity. He will admit that. But the way he handled this graciously, but also letting everybody know, hey, this ain't going to be old. Come run over the Raiders now because we got an interim head coach. Here's Super Bowl champion, New York Giants legend, now interim head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, Antonio Pierce, addressing the team alongside Champ Kelly, the new interim general manager for the Raiders in the middle of a season.
A teammate, a co-worker, somebody that you're close with. We take that very seriously. There's lives and families that's affected by this, and we understand that. But it's a new day. It's a new chapter. It's a new era. It's a new mindset. What is that mindset? It's that of the Raider pride, the commitment to excellence, and making sure our alumni, our fan base, and Raider Nation are proud of what they see on the field. What does that look like? Tough.
Wide.
Passionate.
Wide.
Effort.
Wide.
Energy.
Wide.
That enthusiasm that you see when we all watched our kids and these young men who are now pro athletes play when they're in Pop Warner. Having that love for the game. We're on the same page. Champ and myself, our staff is connected. We had a great team meeting this morning. Everybody was steely-eyed and focused. We walked in with a smile on our face. The synergy, the energy in this building, and the personality of our players will reflect on who we are as Raiders. This is a great opportunity for myself. I'm humbled, I'm honored, and I don't take it lightly. I'm sure there'll be questions about why, how. Those will all get answered. But this is about the players, this is about the Raiders, and this is about this organization. And we're tired of losing. It's not a good feeling. We're a production-based business. We're about competition, being competitive, and play with an edge and a swag and a certain confidence that when we walk out that damn tunnel, that everybody watching TV can see it, and the product on the field is something we're.
So what he's talking about is what we all used to think of the Raiders. The Raiders used to have a brand. The Raiders used to have an image. Obviously, in L.A., that image runs deep. He is from Compton. He said that also in this entire thing, he grew up watching the Raiders and knows a lot of Raiders fans, was a Raiders fan. What the Raiders way was and what they were feared as is something that is obviously not here anymore. Then Marshawn Lynch cut a promo. He's from Oakland. He's from the town. He cut a promo standing at a press conference. He's a Seahawks legend, but everybody knows that whenever he played for the Raiders, it was because he was representing the city in which the Raiders were in. In their last season, they were there. Always had a deep connection with the Raiders, and they put out something to say, hey, we're doing this the Raider way. It's like, I love the fact that Mark Davis, in the middle of the season, saw what Josh McDaniels and Dave Dolph Ziggler were doing, and we're like, it's the Patriot way, right? That's what everybody says, the Patriot way, the Patriot way, Patriot way. Mark Davis like, this isn't a lot of fun. This isn't a lot of coming in. Nobody's happy in this building. Darren Waller said he wanted to get out of Davis' wedding. I was at his wedding. He said, I'm the owner of the His wife is literally on my team that we just won 2 world champions, and then he doesn't want to be there. I don't rate for I love him, or if we gave him a lot of money, and we don't even play him. And this is not. I want to do things the Raider way. Yeah, and I don't know when it was. He probably had sunglasses on, and his haircut was looking fresher than ever. But then he decides to move on. He goes, "Listen, Antonio, you're the guy for the job. We need our team to be back to who the Raiders are. I think you coached at the Raiders. I'm not 100% sure. But that Raiders thing was a real thing everywhere. We grew up in Pittsburgh. We knew what the Raiders were. He grew up in Iowa. He knew what the Raiders were. They were going to be fast. They were going to draft a guy that ran 4.2
For sure.
and everything like that. But they were also going to be dogs. That's the way the Raiders were kind of viewed and always have been. It feels like they know they've lost their way. Now they're trying to get back to that. That's good for the NFL. And also, I think it's good for 2023 football, the style in which we're playing now.
No, absolutely. It gives those, everybody in Raider Nation hope, that he recognized what the hell was going on and said, okay, enough's enough. And how good was that?
It was awesome.
Unreal.
First speech. I
mean, that's not scripted. That's not read. That's not somebody with a little piece of paper, right? That's right from the frickin' heart. So authentic, so real.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with Champ in Chicago. He's a stud. He knows talent. He's a great evaluator. And a better human. These are two really good humans that understand. I was there in 05, 06 in Oakland. Mr. Davis was still living, and what a privilege that was to work for him and get to see that firsthand. And it's about one thing and one thing only there, and that's winning.